Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, another video, and welcome to part one of what dyslexics can contribute to Italian teams like AC Milan, Inter Milan, and AC Milan, especially the latter. I wanted to focus on a theme from Friday. Unfortunately, I had problems with my internet connection, but I wanted to focus on like what dyslexics could contribute to Italian football and Celtic and that kind of thing. So, as it's a Monday, given my use of alliterations and that kind of thing, I thought I'd talk about what I think we could contribute to AC Monza, Inter Milan, and AC Milan. Well, initially I was thinking of like just AC Milan, but then I thought technically, although it's AC Monza and Inter Milan and AC Milan, they don't technically begin with them. But I'm thinking of Monza and the two Milan teams as well. But yeah, I was thinking. I hope I don't repeat myself too much, and I hope I don't forget things too much. And I've been trying to avoid procrastination, so this is way later than planned because I had all these ideas in my mind, and I was trying to avoid procrastination and that kind of thing. So yeah, I say I hope I don't repeat myself too much, and I hope I don't forget things because I'll be thinking of all these different ideas. But initially, I was thinking of talking about what dyslexics could contribute to AC Milan, when the AC Milan cap, which my brother got me, one of my brothers got me. But then suddenly, loads of different ideas came into my mind, and I thought I could talk about a range of different things, including like what we could contribute to AC Milan. So I think I'm going to cover a few different things, although I know the title is about what we could contribute to AC Milan. I was thinking like initially I was going to cover tomorrow. I was going to cover what we could contribute to Torino, but I think I might do that on Thursday, which also means with a T. But and also as Roma are playing Celtic on Thursday, I think I'll do that on Thursday. But yeah, I might cover like Dyslexic Billionaires Network idea tomorrow. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and again, I hope I don't repeat myself. I hope I'm not too boring. Ideally, I'll spread some joy and peace and love and all the positive things. I'd love to be fun, and if you've got any tips on how I can make my videos more fun and I don't know, get to a point and be more informative or whatever, please let me know. But yeah, I've been thinking about a range of things like AI, robotics, apps, and things like that, which I've been thinking about recently quite a lot. Which I hope to come to. But yeah, I'm going to jump straight to it. So I've been, as I say, I've been trying to avoid any distractions and try and focus. As I heard Kevin O'Leary say recently in an interview, like about the late Steve Jobs. He said he wasn't a very nice person, but he focused on like 80% signal, as he put it, and only 20% noise or whatever. And he says the only person who does it better is Elon Musk. Like he focuses so much on what he wants to focus on. So I wish I was better at focusing and avoiding all these different ideas and distractions and wanting to post things before I forget them or whatever. I'm struggling to express myself. Anyway, here goes. So these are pointers number 1 to 10 as per usual. I hope you enjoy them, as I say. If you're watching on Facebook, please check me out on YouTube if you can, and vice versa. And here goes. So number 1, as I say, from a selfish point of view, I'd love to see what dyslexics could contribute to Italian teams like AC Monza, Inter Milan, and AC Milan, like how we could help them with marketing, for instance, different ideas. And I'd love for clubs like AC Monza, Inter Milan, and AC Milan to work with dyslexics, the dyslexic community, and people with mental health problems like myself, which I hope to come to a bit later on. And yeah, including dyslexics in football, as I've been talking about recently. As I say, I was wary. I was thinking like maybe I should just cover the dyslexia stuff and different stuff because to do with dyslexia, because I know I've covered a bit about football. But for this week, I thought, what if I focus on sort of different Italian teams or Italian football as well as Celtic and that kind of thing, and what dyslexics can contribute to them through art, innovation, creativity, out of the box thinking, ideas, imagination, and that kind of thing. So yeah, the AC Milan and those other Italian teams to work as well as Celtic with the dyslexic community, like Made by Dyslexia, the Dyslexic Advantage, and others. Made by Dyslexia, the Hale Centre for Dyslexia and Creativity, the Dyslexic Advantage, maybe even the Childmind Institute, and understood. I think the latter two only work in America, but I think there were a few other things I was going to cover, but I'm going to move on to point number 2, which is, as I say, I'd love for Dyslexics to show what we can contribute to those teams I talked about: AC Monza, Inter Milan, AC Milan, and Celtic, and Roma, and Celtic, and Italian teams generally as well, Celtic. So I dream that obviously we'll benefit those teams. So we will help AC Monza, Inter Milan, and AC Milan to do better through our innovation, creativity, ideas, imagination, and other strengths that we have: mind strengths, MIND strengths, which I think the Dyslexic, I think Made by Dyslexic talks about. Sorry, someone called Dean Bragonia, I think his name is, was talking about on YouTube, on a TED talk, I think it was. But at the same time, so what they would benefit is they would benefit from hopefully our ideas, creativity, imagination, and other strengths and all that kind of thing, MIND strengths. At the same time, we would benefit from showing what we can do, showing to the world what we can do, and hopefully teams like AC Monza, Inter Milan, and AC Milan, especially, and Roma, will fundraise for and include. So they would include Dyslexics, for instance. So Dyslexics could be included through football. So if we're not doing well at school, if those young Dyslexics are not doing well at school, they have another path through sports. In this case, football, because I'm a big football fan. But it could be sports generally. There could be different sports, but obviously I'm focusing on football. And Italian football and Celtic more specifically, as a fan of those. So as I say, the clubs hopefully would benefit through our ideas, creativity, imagination, and that kind of thing, how we can fundraise for them, and how we can play football and use our skills and support them with tactics and show what we can do. And then at the same time, we'd benefit by showing what we could do. And hopefully teams like AC Monza, Inter Milan, AC Milan, as I say, initially I was going to just cover AC Milan, Roma, Italian teams generally as well, and that kind of thing, would fundraise to support like dyslexic entrepreneurs, dyslexics make more money, dyslexic money makers, dyslexics in banking and in the movie industry, the music industry. I'm thinking of things that begin with them because it's a Monday, and things like that. So I was thinking of those sorts of things like dyslexic directors, producers, money makers, entrepreneurs, and things like that. And hopefully dyslexic millionaires and billionaires and musicians included and whatnot, whether they're millionaires or not. And dyslexics generally, including in the movie industry as well as the music industry and other industries, will benefit those Italian teams as well, Celtic, hopefully. So working together. Number 3, I was thinking about AI as well, and I hope to come to that in more details. But I know I've talked about it a few times, but I overthink, but I was thinking maybe that's a dyslexic trait. Let's say I often wonder what conditions I've got and how they affect me, and I know it affects dyslexics differently. Again, we have overlapping conditions. For instance, we have different life experiences, and we're not all the same, obviously. But like many dyslexics are great entrepreneurs, and many struggle to even get a job. Like myself, not that I'd want one, but if I had to have one, I guess sometimes you got to pay your bills. As I said before, like I know I do repeat myself a lot, but if I had a choice, I wouldn't have a 9-to-5 or a regular job, whatever. I'd like to do something creative, use my creativity. I wouldn't want to do something that's too monotonous. Although I think of that when I think the irony of like how I repeat myself a lot in my videos and cover the same sort of topics, but at least they're topics I'm interested in, and I think there is some degree of creativity, imagination, and creativity in them. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to steal or break the law. In fact, I'd love to discourage the dyslexics from doing that kind of thing, and hopefully working with teams like AC Monza, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Roma, and other Italian teams, as well as Celtic, they can help us to steer in the right direction. So to have football and sport generally, especially football, I'd say, as a pathway for dyslexics to avoid getting into crime. And I wouldn't want to take away other people's freedom. So if I could help him, I wouldn't be on benefits either, because one of the main reasons, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons why, possibly the main reason, or certainly one of them, I'll say that, I suppose I made my own YouTube channel to become financially independent, as I would describe it, as in like having enough money to live on, but not needing a 9-to-5 or whatever, or not needing benefits either. And also to express myself and have a bit of fun. But I was hoping to monetize it and that kind of thing. I'm still kind of hoping to do that kind of thing, and also to help others and that kind of thing. So those are the reasons, 3 or 4, maybe 5 reasons why I made my own YouTube channel. I thought, why not? I guess. But yeah, I love to express myself. I love to be financially independent. I love to express myself. I love to help others and not rely on benefits and that kind of thing. And there may be one or two other reasons why. But if I made money, for instance, on videos like this, I would donate the money to, if I had enough to live on, I would donate the rest to like AC Milan, for instance, as an example. But I was thinking about, sorry, I'm struggling to get to the point again, but I was thinking about robotics and how I think there's probably nothing that could be more freeing or liberating in better English, freeing up, well, again, the correct English I think would be liberating than robots. I know I know in Islam and like Muslims and also in Christianity, Christians also would say that about freedom, but I have a different definition of freedom. Like to me, freedom I've talked about before. It's like I think it's doing whatever you want without any adverse repercussions, and not having to do what you don't want to do without adverse repercussions, and basically having free choices, which goes to the first two. But yeah, to me personally, robots. I can't think of. There's probably only one more thing that's more liberating to me potentially than robots. But I think robots. It'd be hard to be more liberating than robots, because if I had a choice, I would never work hard, and I never want to have to work. I do like to do work, if you can call it that, like writing. In spite of my difficulties, I love to write, in spite of my punctuation, handwriting, and that kind of thing. And also, I love to make videos like this, even though I get a bit nervous or whatever. But I'd rather do them than not, unless they give me something to do that I actually kind of enjoy. But if robots did all the errands, tasks, chores, or whatever you can call them, errands, chores, tasks, or whatever, all the hard work that people don't tend to like to do, like if they did gardening. I don't do gardening, but if it meant that my mum wouldn't say like you should learn to garden, or you should hoover, or you should do clean or tidy, or whatever it might be. If I had a robot to do all those things, then I would get it to do so. I've jumped ahead of myself, but yeah, I can't think of anything more liberating than robots, in my opinion, if done right. And I think if it wasn't for human selfishness and greed and that kind of thing, I think we would. And I'm guilty of some of those things myself. Sorry, two of those. But I'm guilty of selfishness sometimes, and greed certainly, and self-centeredness or whatever. But if it wasn't for those things, I think there'd be nothing more liberating than robots. But I'm going to talk more about that a bit later. Yeah, I think robots could set us free, in my opinion. I think they should and could, but I don't think they will, unfortunately. Number 4, I talk a lot about like how I'd love to encourage my fellow dyslexics and others with related conditions not to join militaries. But another controversial view I have is like, well, I don't know if it's controversial, but nowadays anything can be controversial, as I say, is like, I think when people migrate to, and with my numbered list, I was wondering which point to include this in, but I thought I'd include it in point number 4, and I'll probably include it a bit later as well. But I think when people migrate to another country, as I typed up on my timeline, I think they should do so legally. I think they shouldn't break the law when they go to another country. I think they should enter countries legally, and there should be legal channels to help people, which would be a lot safer as well, and probably stop people, smugglers. Obviously, it's difficult to enforce, but certainly I discourage, just like I discourage militarism and joining gangs and joining terrorism or anything that's violent or law breaking or whatever, anything that's violent unless in self-defense. I discourage illegally migrating from one country to another. I think people should do so legally. As a POC and a minority myself, I think that would also mean that we would have a better reputation as POC, perhaps, maybe. But yeah, even as a minority and a POC, some people might say a POS, but whatever. I was going to say something immature about that, but I'm going to move on. But yeah, I think people should migrate legally, not illegally, and I think they should obey the law and respect their new host nation and all the laws within that. I don't think POC should join the military, but I do believe we should obey the law as much as we can at all times, including obviously not legally migrating, because the clue's in the title, like legal migration. So I only support legal migration, not illegal immigration, and I don't support militarism, because I believe that's invading other nations, which I think is a bit hypocritical when people say, like, a lot of people support the military but they're against illegal immigration, and again, a controversial view. I should be careful what I say. But yeah, they support. They say like, oh, we're being invaded by migrants, but at the same time they support militarism and that kind of thing, like the Iraq War, for instance, is an example to me, which is probably as bad, if not worse, than illegal immigration. At least the people that are coming in, well, they're not coming in legally, but they're coming in, generally speaking, a lot of time without using violence or whatever. But some of them are breaking the law, which I think is a bit silly. It's a bit stupid, really. It's a bit moronic. I'd say, all right, Mondays. It's a bit of a moron. Like I say, people. If someone calls my name, they say Michael. I say, that's my name. Only morons say it more than once, or whatever. Or only stupid people say it more than once. But yeah, because like it's a bit brazen or whatever. You'll get yourself in a lot of trouble if you do that. But it would be bad for us, POC generally, and it encourages more racism perhaps when people illegally migrate and trickle when they break the law in their new host nation. But I'm going to move on to number 5. On that note, on the subject of immigration, I suppose I could have said at the point before, but I thought the point was going on too long, so I thought I'd move on. I think that clubs like I say, like Milan, and other Italian teams, as well as Celtic, I know Celtic does a lot to support downtrodden and disadvantaged people, including migrants, and they say migrants and refugees welcome and that kind of thing, which I think POC and especially migrants and gypsies and all that kind of thing, I think should support Celtic. I think Roma gypsies should support Roma and Celtic, and I think gypsies generally should support Celtic, because I think it's quite fitting, like how they've moved from one place to another, like nomads and migrants and refugees and minorities and POC, I think should support Celtic in my view. But Italian teams like AC Monza, Inter Milan, AC Milan and Roma, I think could include migrants through football. So the migrants and refugees could be part of the academies and be included through football, just like Dyslexics and others. So including as many people as possible. I suppose normally an academy has a certain amount of places, but I think it'd be cool if they had certainly training centres, if not specific academies. Maybe I'm using the term a bit loosely, but they could have training centres where anyone who is a migrant or refugee, or anyone who's a citizen, especially legally of, say, Milan or Monza or whatever, or Rome or whatever, would be welcome to come and play football and get training opportunities and practice together. So Italians to work together in football and like unite and bring the country together through football. I think that was point number 6, but also, or was it point number 5? Yeah, that's my train of thought. Point number 6. Yeah, so including migrants, refugees, and others through football, and including obviously dyslexics and all that kind of thing, and dyscalculics and whatnot, dysgraphics and whatnot, even dyspraxics perhaps to an extent, if they wanted to be involved, or including the whole of the city and each city in football. So getting as many Italians to play football for at least an hour a day, as many of them as possible for at least an hour a day, including migrants, refugees, and that kind of thing. And I think it'd be cool if they helped to create great players. I hope that I don't forget too many points I was going to mention. But also, I googled Liverpool's losses. Sorry to any Liverpool fans out there, I hope they're off. But I don't dislike and certainly don't hate Liverpool. But I used to be a Liverpool fan when I was younger. I partly jokingly say I grew out of it, but Inter Milan are playing Liverpool tomorrow. That's why I mentioned them. But I thought I hope Inter Milan check any weaknesses they have and any losses they've had this season, so they can capitalise on those weaknesses, exploit them, and hopefully beat them tomorrow. Because I'd love to see Italian teams do as well as possible. I know I'm wearing an AC Milan cap, but I'd love to see Italian teams generally do well, like being a bit mad. But I know, for instance, AC Milan fans sort of cheered and goaded, took the mick out, basically. I mean, took the Michael Outnick of the Inter Milan fans for losing the final against PSG. But me personally, I'd love to see all Italian teams do well. So I never like to see Italian teams lose when they play non-Italian teams. I always want to see them do well. And I'd love to see Italian teams support each other, even though they're rivals in the league and that kind of thing. But when they play non-Italian teams, again, I've talked about in the past. Moving on, number 7, as I usually say, I'd love to bring together, I say, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, or feeding 2 birds with one scone, as I say. I would love to see Italian teams practice with Celtic, as I've talked about recently. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because I've already mentioned about practicing together and improving each other and that kind of thing. But I love for Celtic to have like teams like junior teams like AC Celtic, CA Celtic, Celtic AC, Celtic CA, and that kind of thing. And to practice against teams like Milan and that kind of thing. Also, going back to what I said about robots, I think it'd be cool if, and this is probably a pipe dream, but I thought I'd share it anyway, as usual, but I think it'd be cool if Africans especially, and maybe Aboriginals, were involved in making robots and got loads of funding from Apple, Amazon, Alibaba, Microsoft, and other companies. Given my use of alliterations, I'd love to see, I was thinking recently, or remembering recently, because I thought about this idea a while back, I'd love for Apple, Amazon, Alibaba, maybe even Amstrad, and others, I was thinking because they begin with A, but even like Microsoft and big tech generally, IBM for Africa and that kind of thing, for instance, to invest billions each, like even if they invested £1 billion each into Africa, well, that would be pretty cool. And they could invest in things like training people in Africa to build, and Aboriginals, Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders and Maoris, so black people from Africa and Australasia, to build, as black people being underrepresented in tech. I'd love for tech companies to be given tax incentives, and maybe the international community to help that as a form of reparations, for them to build robots that, I know I'm a bit robotic myself, but some people call me iRobot, especially the way I type and that kind of thing, the way I write. Strange, I love writing, even though I can't write properly, but I still love to express myself, as you can probably tell, I've got a lot in my head. But to build robots, even like multiple robots to do different chores, so each household, by 2030, if not before, I'd love for each household to have robots, or at least have the option to buy robots, and to make them as cheap as possible. Maybe they'd start off quite expensive, just like space travel, like Richard Branson says with space travel. The founder of Virgin says with space travel, funny enough, a fellow dyslexic apparently, says with space travel that, as far as I'm aware, he wants to bring down the price of space travel. So it might be for the rich originally, but then initially, and then it will go down in price. And I think it'd be cool if that was like with robots, so they could do our gardening, cleaning, washing dishes and clothes, drying dishes and clothes, or things like, the only things I wouldn't want robots to do for me is like my writing, because again, strangely, even though I can't write properly, I love to write, and I love to write in a certain way. I wouldn't want robots to do that, because I like to write in my own way, like how we use the paper and that kind of thing, certain papers that remind me of certain things, or whatever, and have which reminds me of an idea I want to cover in point break. But before I get to that, also I wouldn't want it to do walking for me, or like maybe even going to the gym to an extent. I kind of like that, but to an extent, but certainly walking, writing, making videos, typing and things like that, I want to do that myself, although someone said I should use ChatGPT to improve my writing and that kind of thing. I said it would be a game changer for me, but hopefully these videos be a way for me to express myself, albeit not as well as I'd like, and I do struggle to get to the point. But yeah, I think robots could be the most freeing invention, but if only it wasn't for human greed and selfishness and self-centeredness. Now, some people might say like a life of purpose or whatever, but I still think you get purposes, like, or a purpose, or even purposes like, I love to write, as I say, I love to walk, I kind of like going to the gym a little bit. I'd probably like to get into swimming, but swimming is a bit too tiring, knackering, so I'd say. I'd say, if I had more energy, I'd love to get into swimming. I'm 50-50 about going to the gym, but I certainly love to go for a walk, even if it's just around the block, even if it's for 10 or 15 minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes or whatever a day, or sometimes like half an hour, sometimes even hours of walking. If I didn't have so many ideas I wanted to work on, I'd walk even more. So I wouldn't want robots to walk for me, and I suppose obviously I wouldn't have the health benefits. But in terms of doing things like gardening, cleaning, tidying up, hoovering, all that kind of crap, I'd love for robots to do that. So yeah, I wish that we could have, I think what we need is ethical AI, helpful AI, useful AI, and that kind of thing. So I'd love to have projects like helpful AI, useful AI, not useless, but useful AI. Not like myself, but honestly, there's no like useful AI, helpful AI, helpful robots, helpful AI, and that kind of thing. DIR, do it robots instead of do it yourself, and that kind of thing. So I mean, people might enjoy gardening. Again, they might like they might be like me when it comes to walking. They might love gardening, but they would be free to do that, but people like me wouldn't have to. So at least we'd have that option. The key words being have to. So there are two words, obviously, that the key word, just like hard work. I'd rather do smart work, personally, if I had the choice. So I'm quite honest, although most of the time I'm not, because I'm a bit spineless, to be honest. I don't like to offend people and be too rude or whatever. Yeah, it would free us up to do things we want to rather than things we don't want to do. I don't know if it could help me to get to the point, but moving on that note, number 8, that's a few things. I hope I remember them all. I'd say I love to combine those things together, like town football and Celtic and that kind of thing. And also, I was going to say, I almost forgot, but I was going to say point number 7, but I'll say point number 8 now anyway. But bringing it back to AC Milan and teams like that, AC Monza, Inter Milan, AC Milan, and Roma, and also Celtic. I would love for them to fundraise to help people in Africa to build robots, so as well as big tech companies and other companies, as many companies as I can get to do so. Big tech, for instance, but also like superstores and other big businesses, or even smaller businesses donating, like a business that can afford to donate 10k or 20k or whatever they feel comfortable donating. I love to encourage as many individuals and companies to donate to people across Africa to build robots to make life easier for everyone, and hopefully help them to build their economies as well. So again, I'd love to have ethical robots, humane robots, or helpful robots is what I'm looking for, and useful robots and that kind of thing. DIR, as I say, do it robots, so they can make our life easier and less labor intensive. They can do all those work, especially things like cleaning toilets. I don't know why anyone would want to do that if you had the choice. I suppose if they had to clean people's bums, then you'd want to make sure they're as safe as possible. The problem is if they malfunction. So I do hope they're as safe as possible. I guess life is a risk, but I'm not saying robots will be that way. Again, it could be a pipe dream, but I'm hopeful that they can be used that way. I forgot saying point number 7 as well, like about AC Monza, Inter Milan, AC Milan, and other Italian teams working with those with mental health problems as well. So like Celtic working with them, they're helping those with mental health problems, including people like myself. I'm absolutely bonkers, I know, absolutely mad as a hatter, as I say. But, as my dad would say, mad as a box of frogs. And I asked him, what does that mean, Dad? And he said, it means you're mad, but you're harmless. Hopefully. Although with my hoarding, I suppose if I could get away with hoarding everywhere, I guess it would be quite dangerous like that. I'd be careful, like fire risks or things I don't really think of most of the time, to be fair. I didn't think of until people told me, but like those hoarders on TV, I'd be as bad as that if I can get away with it, or even worse. Like, I'd have paperwork everywhere if I could. But that has reminded me of like I would love to have my own creative rooms to be able to write and make videos and things like that. A bit off topic again. I'm thinking, I hope I didn't forget anything else for point break. Number 9, through my creative rooms, I'd love to have, like, if I got them, creative places and spaces for paperworks and writings and that kind of thing. And being able to, as I say, be able to keep as many papers as possible, being able to write when and wherever I have permission. I like to write in notebooks in a certain way and that kind of thing, which is a funny one for a dyslexic guy who has problems with punctuation and that kind of thing. I know I got help to learn to spell and that kind of thing. I have the worst punctuation in the world or whatever, but yeah, I think that covers everything. Point number 9, I love to 40 times to prioritise football. With my pronunciation difficulties, I wonder if people think I say privatise, but it's prioritise, but not necessarily privatise. But talking about the private sector, though, I would love, the private and public sector to sponsor, like, to support like spaces and places for sport, in this case football, soccer, or whatever you want to call it, places and spaces for Italians to play and practice their football as well as Celts. And number 10, supporting youth development, again, young dyslexics and migrants, as well as others, those with mental health problems and all that kind of thing, could find a place to do football, be included through football, and that kind of thing. And hopefully that would benefit Italian teams like AC Monza, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Roma, and the national team, and also hopefully benefit Celtic. And I'm out, and peace and love.